Welcome to Storytimer at Large. Tracy Sue Walker. Tracy Sue Walker was born on June 2nd, 1963. She grew up in Lafayette, Indiana. That's just over the river, over the Wabash River from West Lafayette, where Purdue University is. But she grew up in Lafayette, Indiana. She lived on Eisenhower Court with her mother. Eisenhower Court is a short road off Eisenhower Drive on the northeast side of Lafayette. It's very close to Interstate 65. Eisenhower Court lies along an oxbow of Wildcat Creek. So each house would have a view of the creek, and thick woods lies behind the homes. Um, if you were leaving that neighborhood and you were in a hurry, you could either take the road that curves along that oxbow and then back out, or you could get across the creek there. So, uh, so it's kind of it's almost like your own little island. More than 3/4 of it are surrounded by the creek. She was last seen by a friend at the Tippecanoe Mall in Lafayette in 1978. It's not clear if that last sighting is the actual last day that she disappeared, and I didn't have an exact date for that, or even a month for that last sighting. In 1985, skeletal remains were found in Elk Valley, Tennessee. So Tracy disappeared in 1978, and skeletal remains were not found until 1985. Down in Tennessee, so from Indiana all the way down through Indiana, down through Kentucky, and then down in Elk Valley, Tennessee. Someone was foraging for pokeweed. Pokeweed was often eaten by people in Appalachia as a way to get vitamins and minerals, and people still eat it today. They make poke salad. They don't say salad, they say salad. But also, that person might have been looking for ginseng. That's a very good way to make a little extra money, but it is protected, so you're not supposed to forage for ginseng and sell it, but people do that. But that person was looking for pokeweed. The area where she was found was wooded and remote. The perpetrator went to great lengths to tuck her away where she wouldn't be easily found, unless animals had dragged her remains there earlier from another nearby location. The road through and climbing out of Elk Valley, Tennessee, it's Tennessee 297, has a few areas where a body could be thrown from the roadway down into a steep wooded embankment. Perhaps that's what happened here, but it's not easy to determine exactly where the body was found from the available information. The killer could have stopped on the interstate and thrown her off the very steep slope there. Interstate 75 overlooks Elk Valley. But that's kind of a dangerous place to stop. It's curving, there's not a lot of shoulder there. But if it was very late at night and there was little to no traffic, it could have been done. It's estimated that the remains had been there from 9 to 15 years. For decades, her remains were unidentified. She was named Elk Valley Jane Doe and nicknamed Baby Girl by investigators and others interested in her case. That spot, in Elk Valley, is almost a 6-hour drive from Lafayette, Indiana. Tracy's cause of death could not be determined. Too much flesh was gone and many bones were also missing, possibly carried away by animals. Among the skeletal remains, though, was a skull. It was used to create a recreation of facial features in hopes that the family might see that recreation and recognize their loved one. And it doesn't. It's a very realistic, lifelike looking recreation, but it doesn't call to mind the face of Tracy Sue Walker here from the picture. Somewhat in the curve of the nose up into the eyebrows. There's somewhat of a resemblance there, but it's not something you would go, oh, identical. Wow. A DNA profile was created for Tracy's remains, but still she went unidentified until Othram Labs used genetic genealogy techniques to find a close relative in Lafayette, Indiana. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation then made contact with that relative, who confirmed that in 1978, Tracy Sue Walker had disappeared. What month was Tracy last seen in Lafayette? If it was in January, in the weeks before the 24th, then I can suggest one suspect. On January 24th, 1978, Jeffrey Lynn Hand abducted a woman from a shopping center in nearby Kokomo, Indiana. That woman managed to escape, and Hand died in a shootout with police. Had he been trolling the mall in Lafayette, Indiana for victims earlier in January? If Tracy Sue Walker was last seen at the mall after January 24th, then we can definitely rule Hand out. I've never found evidence of Jeffrey Lynn Hand traveling outside of Indiana and all the way down to Kentucky and Tennessee, though. So I'm kind of thinking it might not be him. It's a slim window of opportunity, too. This perpetrator, however, seems like he might have been a trucker based on the distance traveled and a potential route. He could have been traveling from the Chicago-Gary area south through Lafayette, Indiana. He seems to have made his way south on I-65 and then onto I-75 towards Knoxville. If you are traveling from Indiana down to Knoxville, Tennessee, this is probably the route you'll take as well. He could have turned off at Jellicoe, Tennessee, that's north of Knoxville, and traveled along Tennessee State Road 297 through Elk Valley, where he dumped Tracy's body near an old strip mine. As a trucker, he may have been familiar with the mine from loads that he had picked up or equipment that he had delivered there. He could have easily stayed on Tennessee 297 traveling south and got back on I-75 after the community of Pioneer, Tennessee. That's the end of that where it gets back onto the interstate. One particular trucker serial killer that we now know is Harry Edward Greenwell of Iowa. He's recently been linked to 3 murders along I-65. 2 of those murders occurred on the same night in March of 1989. Margaret Mary Gill and Jean Gilbert both died from gunshot wounds. He also killed a woman in Elizabethtown, Kentucky named Vicki Heath. But those murders occurred in 1989. He may have had a different modus operandi in 1978, though. So he, even though those women were left very near where they were abducted from, Tracy Sue Walker here was taken 6 hours away. So it could still be Greenwell, but yeah, maybe, operating under a different modus operandi earlier in 1978. All 3 of those 1989 murders were linked to Greenwell after his death through DNA. Tracy Sue Walker's remains were cremated after her identification. There were a few items found near the body which may have belonged to Tracy, including a pair of size 5 shoes. Can a DNA profile of her killer be developed from any of that evidence? Tracy Sue Walker's murder is still unsolved. Tracy deserves justice. She has family members and friends that deserve answers. If you have any information that can aid investigators, please contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations at 1-800-TBI-FIND, F-I-N-D. That's also 1-800-824-3463. Rest in peace, Tracy. Thank you all so much for listening to the video today. And thank you if you're subscribing. I really appreciate that. algorithm on Facebook, or sorry, not on Facebook, on YouTube, um, relies on attention to push the video to other people. So if you like the video, it doesn't mean you're liking this terrible thing that happened to Tracy. It just means that you're hoping for justice in this case. I consider it the thumbs up for justice button. So please hit the thumbs up button if you can. Share the videos, that curved share arrow. If you hit that, it will ask you if you want to copy the link. And you can copy the link, and then you can go to your social media and touch the spot where you might be uploading something, and paste will come up, and then you can paste that link into your own social media and share it. And anything you do to like, share, save the video to a playlist, subscribing, signing up for the notifications by hitting that little bell icon as well. Those kind of things will help these videos get in front of the right person. There are investigators out there who are looking for more information. These unsolved cases especially need as much attention as possible in order to get solved. There may be somebody out there who, along the way, when Tracy was with the trucker, may have seen something. They may have seen Tracy with this man. Yeah, so any tips at all are very, very helpful. If anybody knows more about Tracy's earlier life, who was in her life, maybe this wasn't a trucker. Maybe this was someone else that was on the periphery of her life that was a predator. But yeah, anything at all you can do to share the videos is really appreciated. I don't make money off this. I don't think any of this can be monetized because I do speak very freely about what's happened to the victims. And I'm not doing this for money anyway. I really am just hoping to solve cases and get more information out there. There are a lot of cases that just really don't capture any public attention, and they're just sort of almost forgotten. And so I try to bring those to the public so that they can get a little bit more attention, because cases that get attention are cases that get solved. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a good day, and I hope you're feeling well today. And let's go out there and be kind. Let's be a force for good.